What's going on, Darnell?
What's going on, Sean and Dylan? How you
What's
doing?
up, Dylan? You made it.
What's up, guys? Darnell, great to see you, my man.
Good to see you too. Been a minute.
Yeah. Hey, so today's another episode of Service to Sales. Vets helping vets. It's a special day because I brought on Darnell Shiver, who's an SDR now. Is it Shiver or Shiver?
Shiver. No, you got it right.
Yeah, I hit it right. Brand new SDR over at Limble. And, like I said, we started this program. I got on with Shift Group in February and March. I started building out the veteran portion of our training. And, April, I started recruiting people. And then now, last month, was it last month or the month prior, Darnell?
We met at the very beginning of July.
Okay. So in July, Darnell hit me up, crushed through the course probably faster than any vet that we've had, and got hired, I want to say, within 3 weeks of contacting me to a very lucrative SDR gig at a very one of our best hiring partners in a very well-known company. Dylan, I brought Dylan on because he's the one who coached Darnell through the process. So first of all, can you guys both introduce yourself? We'll start with Darnell and just be quick, man, so we don't bore people, and then we'll hit Dylan up after that if they don't know you.
I'm Darnell Shiver. I am an SDR at Limble, prior vet, U.S. Army. Yeah.
That's it? That's all you got for us?
I mean, I can go on and on and on, but
what's up, Dylan? What are you doing at Shift Group, man? Tell us a little bit about your background and why you're at Shift Group.
Yeah, so I was a professional baseball player for 9 years and then struggled with my transition, found Shift Group, became a part of it, and have been kind of coaching our athletes and vets through our training process for the last 6 months now. So get to work with great dudes like Darnell who make this enjoyable for me.
Cool. So hey, Darnell, so you were active duty, right, in the Army?
I was reserve, actually.
For how many years?
3 years.
Mm-hmm. And then what was your occupation in the Army?
So I was a 25 Bravo, which is IT.
Okay. And then, so you did 3 years, and then you got out and you got into, what were you doing you're at Stanford, right?
I was at actually I was at UCLA. So right after I got out of the Army, I was still living at LA. Ended up getting a job at UCLA, but it was just an attempt to hire job, and so I kind of bounced around for a few years, coaching, and ended up getting hired again by UCLA a few years after that, and then I was there for almost a decade.
Okay, and then why'd you want to be in tech sales?
So, funny story. One of my best friends, actually the best man at my wedding, was in tech sales. He actually still is in tech sales. He's an AE at a company, and so when we were living together, I'd see him walking around our apartment, and he'd be in his meetings. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was like, sounds kind of cool. So fast forward, I'm doing technology on the other side as an engineer at UCLA for years, and I love my job. It got to a point though where I felt that I had plateaued and I had gone as high as I could, and I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to, see what that tech sales combos were like that I'd heard about so much in those past years. And so I started picking his brain. I started researching online and really trying to deep dive as much as I could.
Okay. Hey, Dylan. So Darnell hit us up. I think he came through Austin, one of our coworkers, and then I introduced you to him. And I just thought, can you just tell me, from the day he talked to me till he got hired was just a remarkable, quick, faster than normal. Why do you think he made it through so quick and he got hired so quick?
Yeah, I mean, it all just comes. Yeah, It's just a certain level of urgency that some people have, and Darnell just had that. So for every single time we kind of had a new step to take, I mean, I would send it to him, and like sometimes it would be like an hour later I would have it done, whereas other candidates take 2 weeks to get these things done. So Darnell was just on top of everything, and then any feedback that was ever given from either me or you, Sean, I mean, he never had any excuses about it. It was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense, and he applies it right away. So it's just like that growth mindset and then just attacking it. I mean, if people could attack this with the sense of urgency Darnell had, then they'd be moving through just as fast. It's a trait that not a lot of people have, and especially it's even a trait that some veterans athletes don't have, but Darnell just takes that all to the next level.
Yeah. And then so Darnell, back to you. So you only did 3 years, but you still served, and that's what most people do. They only really do one tour. What'd you learn in the Army that kind of makes you, because like you're my kind of person, man. Like you're a guy I want to work with. Like, so what'd you take from the Army, and like now that you apply to like your professional life as a civilian?
So first, I thank you, Dylan, for what you said earlier. I initially wanted to join when I was 18, and my family kind of talked me out of it. And so I joined later in life, and it was at a point where I really needed I felt some discipline as a man, trying to figure out myself in a big city. I live in LA, and I needed discipline. And so I think that was the thing that stuck out the most that I got out of my experience in the Army. And so I came back, and literally I could feel the difference from when I joined until when I came back. Like literally everything that I wanted, every goal that I put in front of myself, it was only a matter of like when I was going to get it. It wasn't really like, can I do it? I just had that confidence, and knowing that structure that the Army gave me was huge.
Nice. Dylan, so like I said, Shift Group started as like an athlete, transition to tech sales, because that's how our CEO was a hockey player. He played for like 20 something years of his whole childhood all through college, and then he was lost. Like when he was finally done, he didn't make the NHL, right? So Dylan, you didn't know much about the military prior to, this experience coaching military candidates. So what are some of the similarities that you see between transitioning pro and elite college athletes and vets?
Yeah, so I was actually exposed to it a little bit starting in November. I joined this organization called Merging Vets and Players, and it's all former veterans and then professional athletes where we meet on Wednesdays. So kind of gotten to get into the psyche of veterans and kind of seeing how similar we really are. And sorry, it's freezing a little bit. But so it's just there's a lot of similarities in just that mindset of like really pushing ourselves to be the elite. And it's a different level of commitment that we both have to. It's different things, but it's really similar. So it's like, I don't know, for athletes, we're gone all these months of the year. We spend so much time training. We're in these teams where it really matters what the person next to you is doing. And I feel like in service, there's that same thing. Obviously, the stakes are a little bit higher, but it's really being a part of that team and like driving toward the common goal and really selling yourself out for something, and then kind of transitioning to the real world and like the civilian world, as you guys say, it's hard to find that. Like you can't really just go out and find other people who haven't either been in elite level sport or service who really share that mindset. So kind of bonded with the veterans I've worked with, and then obviously from that organization on that level of commitment to something.
Yeah. So I see the similarities too. Like, and that's why I was really excited when me and JR first met in like January on the phone. And he started kind of asking me about the military transition, and he started telling me about his life transition. And I'm like, man, it's so similar. So like it just makes sense for Shift Group to add the veterans to the vertical, and I'm really glad that he made that decision. And we're gonna help out, a lot of people in the future. But Darnell, so we're talking about team, right? So
Right.
like team in the Army and team for athletes is a very important word, right? Like there's nothing you do in the Army without at least what they call like a battle buddy, right? So like
Absolutely.
now that you're on an SDR team, everybody thinks it's like an individual contributing position, which it is. But how important is it, especially like in the first couple months that you're in, that you have a great team that you're surrounded by, and you have a great first line supervisor? Because with the greatest SDR teams, from my experience of being an SDR, are the ones that are like want everybody on the team to win. And I'm
Right.
assuming just from talking to you and how good you're telling me that you're doing right now, that's how you have it. So tell us a little bit about your team at Limble, and like why is it important to have a strong SDR team around you instead of a bunch of everybody looking out for themselves.
I really couldn't I couldn't agree more with you. And I grew up playing sports also, and through some other endeavors. It's always been, for me, one thing that's been paramount is team structure. And that was one thing that when I joined the military, that was huge for me, as you mentioned. And when I joined Limble, that was something that I saw from literally from day one. Like there is they have we have Slack, and it's constant encouragement when someone books a meeting, and when pretty much when anyone does anything that is something that's great for the team, great for the organization, you can see everybody chiming in. There's nobody that seems to be like, it's just me, or I wish that was happening for me. There's none of that. And that's something that that's huge. I love that kind of stuff. And for somebody like me that I don't need all the eyeballs and all the glory for myself, that's something that I just eat right up. And my team that I'm on, it's a team of 10, well, 11, including my manager. And we'll have one-on-ones, and we'll have group discussions like 3 times a week. And it's constant uplifting, which is
so everybody talks about what's great about being an SDR on LinkedIn, but let's talk about what's not so great. So like this is why I bring this up, because this is where the team really comes into play. What about when the person to your left or right is having a terrible day, dude? Like, and they're getting hung up on, they're getting cussed out, their connect rates are low, they're just feeling down in the dumps. Like, what do you guys do to draw each other up?
Good question. So if something like that were to happen, like I said, we're very vocal on our group chat. Everybody's picking everybody up. If somebody's having a bad day, we're just reminding them that, hey, we're calling people, trying to help them. And at the end of the day, they don't know you. So if they curse you out, if they hang up on you, probably not personal. Don't take it that way. Keep it going. It's a numbers game. You're going to get the next person. Just keep crushing it. And that's the mindset that overall I would say that we all have.
So Justin, Darnell, you can take a crack at this. What are you thinking?
In sales organizations, do you find valuable to be less strategy? Yeah. In my experience, and I'm on my first month here, I do think that for me, I can speak for myself. I'm the only veteran. Actually, no, there's one other veteran that's on my team, and yeah, very much so looking out for the team. Not about like, hey, what's my personal goals? Where do I see myself in 6 months, a year? Not, I haven't seen any of that. That's really not on my radar personally. I'm focused on being the best SDR that I can be. I think that's
so. And Justin, the way I kind of tell sales leaders, I talk to them all the time, is so leadership is ingrained into soldiers when they're 19. Like there's people out there that are team leaders of like at least 3 people at the age of 19, right? So leadership is big in the Army, and through the systems and processes that the Army's created over hundreds of years, it gets ingrained into you in your service. So like without even thinking, you're always worried about your buddy and like checking on him or her, making sure, in the Army, it's like they got their equipment, they're healthy, they're not missing, when you're out doing missions and stuff. So like they take that same mentality into the civilian workforce, regardless of what you do, even if it's not sales, of just looking out for the person left and right. So Dylan, I think like Shift Group, like internally, like our team is real big, like on holding each other accountable, right? So like that's why I like working at Shift Group. And so do you see, like, I know athletes on really elite teams like yours are real big on the notion of holding everybody accountable for doing their job. What have you learned about that? Do you see veterans doing the same, or do they have a different view on it? Like what do you think?
No, I think that's one of the huge correlations between veterans and athletes, especially as you get higher up in athletics. I think veterans maybe have it all the way through. But yeah, it's just, and it's not, nobody really gets their feelings hurt because they know whatever that person is saying is to try and benefit either them or the team. So it's like you can bypass that whole, I don't want to try and offend somebody by saying they're doing something wrong. They're going to understand that you're saying it because you want to be better. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge correlation between the highest level athletes I've been around and then pretty much all veterans.
And then like the way I kind of look at it is, so just take since you're a baseball guy, if I'm like the catcher, right, and I'm not like focused and somebody's stealing first to second, and I make this crazy ass throw because I'm late and I'm trying to rush and I got had essentially, and then I overthrow and then the guy like scores and we lose the game by 1, my individual like lack of like focus and personal responsibility costs 8 other people and then all the coaches and all the fans like the game, right? And then so like that's a that and it's just a game, but still like that's your livelihood too. I mean, you got in the pros, right? Well, in the military, it's the same thing, but like the stakes can be higher depending on if you're in combat or not, right? So like if I'm the guy in the back or the girl in the back, the very back, and we're like walking through the mountains in Afghanistan on a patrol, and it's my job to like make sure nobody comes up behind us, and like I'm lazy and I don't have enough energy to turn around, and then somebody ambushes from behind. Well, guess what? I might not get shot, but like these other people are going to get shot, and I just got them killed. So, and I know that's kind of extreme, but what I'm saying is like that whole, like, if I don't do my job, then everybody else is going to pay for it. I think if more sales professionals had that mentality, it's like, hey, if I do my job and you do your job and we all do our jobs and we help each other out, the company as a whole is going to create more revenue. And then we're all going to rise this ship up together, which is a team mentality over an individual mentality, which I see a lot of on LinkedIn about like just get yours and work-life balance, and they're going to fire you. So, don't give them any extra work and all that kind of stuff. So like when I talk to sales leaders, that's kind of what I'm like, hey, this is the mindset that the vets and athletes are going to bring to the table. Darnell, what do you think about that? I know that's
I totally agree. That's one thing that is always like top of mind is, no matter what, I'm just a positive person, and that's what I've always seen. Actually, the people that I served with, were the same way, and they just always have a can-do attitude. And it's interesting when what you were saying earlier, Dylan, with what you've seen with your colleagues that play professional sports. My best friend that I was mentioning earlier, who's an AE at another company, he actually was drafted by the Phillies, and so a lot that I saw in him when we were living together for so many years was a lot that I had. And so I think that there definitely is a correlation between elite athletes and service members without question.
So here, the main reason I wanted to bring you both on together was like to kind of describe the experience of Shift Group, Darnell,
Mm-hmm.
through your lens and through Dylan's lens. So like, I'll start with Dylan. Like, kind of explain essentially like what happens when you find Shift Group. How do you sign up? What's the process with the intro meeting? And then what happens after that, and how's that whole process lead to you getting a job?
Yeah, so basically, you come across Shift Group. There's multiple ways to sign up. We have landing pages. You can sign up through the website or through kind of a direct referral. From there, you get to set up a time where you get on a call with either JR or our director of sales, where he kind of takes you through what Shift Group is, how we help athlete and veterans, the story of Shift Group, and then kind of just our value proposition of how if you bring it, like we're going to give you the best in class training and give you all the tools that you can use to be successful. From there, go through an intro course. There's one specific to athletes that JR kind of has his bid in, and then the veterans one, Sean plays a big part in that, and just kind of really reinforcing those characteristics that you have and how they're going to apply to sales. From there, you write a intro assignment, and that's kind of our first point of contact. So it works as a good vetting process too for us, because like there is a little bit of work to get to a coach, but it's meant to be that way, because if you want to succeed in this, like you're going to have to put the work in. So we get to that. And then from there, we help you create a profile. So really company facing content for the companies to see, where you get a chance to really sell yourself more than a resume, especially with the way today's market is. Like, it's just not going to work with a resume. So we give you a chance to really show off your skills, separate yourself from everyone else with how you tell your story, talk about why you want to be in sales, and then why a company should hire you. So it's cool for that. Then from there, we get into our job skills training, where you get real on the job type assignment. Go through that. We'll kind of review it and then hop on recording, and you get to present it. So again, the companies get another touch point. So a common kickback of these companies is like, oh, they don't have sales experience. And I mean, it's an entry level role, so it's tough to have sales experience for that. But we kind of show them that it doesn't matter. Like, they get to see how well this candidate is going to do. And from there, start getting them interviewing. We prep with them. Darnell, we spent a lot of time prepping for these, and I mean, I guess you could touch on that part.
Yeah. So yeah, from my lens, I'm a business owner, and I'm fortunately in that lane, get to work my own hours as an executive in another industry. And so I had that experience. And so I knew I wouldn't be afraid to jump on the phones, mixed with my experience working, like serving in the military and my past as a tech engineer. But none of those really scream tech sales. And so when I was looking for positions, I wasn't finding anything. I wasn't able to get any interviews. And I think I saw a post of yours, Sean, that made me think about what I was going through. And you were saying how you had to like kind of pull back on like the military experience because you were afraid of what like people would think about, like that people would not know how to understand you. And I felt the same way. And so I ended up stumbling. I don't know how it happened. Must have been meant to be. I stumbled upon Shift Group. And so I reached out to Austin first, actually, and I started messaging him back and forth. And he was like, yeah, we'll sign you up and we'll get you set up. And then you and I jumped on a call, Sean, and the rest was pretty much history from there. I signed up. I started working with Dylan. Dylan was amazing to work with. Every interview that I went into was I was super prepared for. And yeah, 3 weeks later, I was working at Limble.
So how much did you pay to join Shift Group?
Nothing. And I had
how many
I'd done a
contracts?
boot camp before. I'd done a boot camp before, and
Yeah.
I paid money for that, and I wish that I would have found Shift Group beforehand.
Yeah. How many contracts did you sign with us?
None.
Nothing, right?
Nothing.
You never. Yeah, you didn't sign anything.
No.
Did it cost?
I was told straight up, like by you. I was told straight up by you, by the CEO JR from the very beginning that, you know, if this is your deal, we want to help you. We want to take it as far as you want to take it. If this isn't for you, be straight up. We'll help you find something else, which was like, that was music to my ears, just to hear that if I didn't want to continue with your company, that you were willing to still help me out. That really meant a lot.
So, you know, I'm not in the business of trashing competitors, or we really don't even have any competitors, to be honest with you. But, I mean, that's something I wanted to highlight to the crowd is like, how many times did you meet our CEO through the process?
I met him several times, or actually not like in person, but like I was on a Zoom call with him right away.
Like
right away.
Emails,
like text, emails. He was
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say JR is he gets his hands dirty, you know.
And how many times did you and Dylan work together?
All the time. Like text. We would be on Zoom one-on-ones. Basically Dylan was with me the entire time.
Yeah, and then and then me and you had some conversations, and then
yep.
I remember we did a pre-interview with you too, right? It was like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the reason why I bring all this up is like, Dylan, how many candidates do you personally coach, like right now?
Right now, I think I have 65 or 70, and but each one are at a different stage, and then kind of as they move further in the process, the contact really picks up. So like as they're getting more invested, we're getting more invested. And that's kind of what we say from the beginning. You know, if somebody's going to come in and do what Darnell did, like we're going to be all in. If they're going to come in and kind of just go about it half-ass, like I'll be there whenever you call, but I'm not chasing you down. Like this is for the ones that want it. And if you want it, I'm right there with you the whole time.
Yeah, it was funny. Darnell's been kicking us some of his like connections to Shift Group, and he told me like one or two of them, or somebody were like essentially like, oh, like they didn't like the amount of like work or whatnot that it takes to get to the level where you're starting to create company facing content and stuff. And just for the audience or anybody that's thinking about joining Shift Group, we do that on purpose because like he's got 60 candidates just himself, right? And so like we want to help everybody, but we only have a limited amount of resources. We give it to we don't charge our candidates, right? So like we need people to be just as invested as we are, right? And I think that's what makes the company great, right? So I think that's why we're doing so well, and you know, people like Darnell, and we got some people behind you that are just like you, that are going to be crushing it out in the tech sector. Let me see. We had a question here from Justin again. How can leaders identify the fact that veterans are willing to sacrifice their own personal production in order to help their teammates? I've seen that so often a veteran is left in the lurch. Just like any, I would say just like any leadership position, the number one thing is communication.
Yeah.
And so the vet needs to communicate to their leader, like, hey, this is all the stuff that I'm doing. And you're not like bragging or anything. You're just being honest, like, hey, this is all the stuff I'm doing to help my teammates. And so that leader knows what you're doing. And on the flip side, the leader shouldn't be surprised by that, because the leader should have a grasp on what their team's up to, right? I don't know. How's it in your org, Darnell?
Yeah, I think you know, communication is key at the end of the day. I don't know, like sometimes sometimes I feel like vets are not necessarily understood, and it's kind of hard to understand something that you've never done before. So I get that, and I feel like a lot of people come in meeting vets thinking that they are hyper aggressive, which isn't the case.
We can be, but we can turn it on and off.
It's not really necessary. Especially in a work environment. So I think that, it's refreshing to a lot of people, when you work with a vet and you see how much of a team player that we are and how much we actually just want to bring value.
Yeah. Hey, this guy right here, I don't know how he found us. Elijah, how'd you find us, man? Dude,
I know Elijah.
Yeah. Dude, this guy is going to be a beast, man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Elijah, is he signed up? I don't know. Was he a vet?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is.
Elijah, man, I look forward to seeing you, Sissy, man. I've been seeing you commenting on our content and stuff. So, man, you're gonna get it.
Yeah, I talked to Elijah. I talked to Elijah maybe a week ago. He was telling me how bad he wants it.
Dude, Dylan, did you and Julie ever talk?
Not yet. We're still working on it.
What's up, Julie? All right, so let's move on. So, Dylan, how do you see, like, so what's next for us, man? Like, how are we gonna build off of what we did with Darnell and the rest of these people, and like, what's the future looking like, man?
Yeah, I think it's just continuing to get that word out there. And I do think it's on us and then on veterans and athletes individually. I see this a lot with the athletic community, especially a lot of like my former professional athlete friends. We're kind of fed this BS, to be honest with you. It's like, oh, like you're a professional baseball player. Like it's as soon as you get into the working world, like everyone's just going to want you. But then you get into the real world and you're like, oh, they don't care. Like you don't have sales experience. You're basically starting from day one. So I think where we need to really separate ourselves is really learning how to tell that story and showing your value, because there's a big difference between me going to a company and be like, oh, I was a professional baseball player. Like I could do anything, or actually being able to verbalize the skills that I obtained from it and show that I understand the vision of a company and how I can contribute to that. So it's just like, I think we'll get caught up in like, not this elitist mindset, just like, because we did something at a high level, vets did at a high level. You still need to be able to sell yourself, especially in sales. You're going to be selling something else. So if you can't come in and sell yourself to a company, how are they going to believe you could sell their product? So I think it's really just pushing that messaging and continuing to spread the word and keeping our brand strong. So like for us too, placing someone like Darnell is amazing because we know he's been through all of our training and we know he's going to go crush it, which he's in his first month. I mean, his first week, he was leading the organization there. And that's what Shift Group candidates do. So as that continues to grow and spread with candidates like Darnell going on and putting up real numbers in the real world, I think we continue to take off and the tech sales world realizes who they need to be hiring.
Nice. Darnell, so you said you were having a hard time getting into tech. You're trying to apply to tech sales jobs prior to finding Shift Group. What'd you learn as far as like how to tell that story that Dylan just talked about? Like were you able to learn anything and actually apply it in your interview process?
Absolutely. And I think that it was just like he said, it's more the messaging. I think athletes and veterans, sometimes we get in the mindset where we're such team players where the focus isn't necessarily on us all the time when it should be. It should be kind of focused, at least in some of the messaging when you're in the interviews for tech sales. You want to obviously be a team player. You obviously want to support the organization, but yeah, you do have to realize how to effectively tell your story and explain your value and how you're going to crush it personally.
Yeah.
So that's something that I definitely learned from Shift Group. And
I tell this all the time, but I know we got some new people that follow us. So essentially, Darnell, I told you this when we first talked. Like, I did 22 years in the Army at a pretty high level, like top 1% of the Army. I got a master's degree. I've been all over the world. I speak Russian, and I couldn't get a $40,000 SDR job, right? And it was till I met an SDR leader, Matt Roberts, who kind of worked with me on the side and says, hey, what'd you do in the military that applies to this, and this? Because I didn't really know what an SDR did, and he told me, right? And I'm like, well, I was a Green Beret. I went to foreign countries, and I sold foreign partner forces to do stuff that risk their life, limb, and eyesight in support of U.S. foreign policy objectives, right? And he was like, use that. So, like, I started using that line specifically. And, like, when I would say that, like, the interviews didn't even know what to say, dude. They were just like, that's crazy, right? So, like, once I started kind of getting in that mindset that Dylan and you just talked about, I was killing interviews, man. Because I was just like, hey, name a time you did this. I'm like, and it would be like a sales thing, right? And I'd be like, well, in the military, I did this, and this, and I had these results, and it was very similar to what they were asking me about the civilian world. And once I was able to do that, it was easy. So, like, that's what we do here at Shift Group, do our whole, like, process is like we help you find what you did as a military and athlete and how to translate it to entry-level sales, which, me and JR and Anthony, all these guys really know really well. And like, that's nobody else is doing that. And and that's why, like, it's the future's bright for us, man. And the more alumni we get like you that are out there spreading the word, I just can't wait to see where we go. So, hey, so how many days are you in at Limble?
So it's coming up on a month here, the 27th, actually. So almost at a month.
I missed it, but why do you think you're doing so well? She wants to know why you think you're doing so well. I already know the answer because you've told me. Why are you doing so well?
I'm doing so well because, first of all, Shift Group prepared me for what I was going to do.
You don't have to.
No.
Let's talk about
no BS. Shift Group did prepare me, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a go-getter. I've always been that way. If I'm doing something, I'm super competitive. I'm not willing to stop until I feel like I have done better than the average. If the average is expected, I'm going to be at the top every time.
Remember you messaged me and you told me how many dollars you made your first day?
Yeah, it was
what'd I tell you?
So it was 114, I think.
What'd I tell you though? You remember?
What's that?
What'd I tell you?
You told me. What did you tell me? I think you told me. I said you told me a lot, Sean.
You did 114, so now that's the standard, right?
That is the standard. Yes.
Like, everybody else is doing 50. He's doing 114. But I didn't want him to think like, oh, I'm doing 114, so I'm like the best. I was like, now 114 is the new standard, right?
No. And it's not. Yeah. And then that's another thing. Like, that's another thing with competition. I'm not like looking at the next guy and what the next person is doing. It's just like, I'm just trying to beat myself. Like, let me see if I can do that again. Let me see if I can, continue setting that standard for me, because at the end of the day, I just want to be as good as I can.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the mindset, when I'm coaching our vets, and I'm sure Dylan can talk to this, is like, if there's two pieces of advice I give them. I said, number one, and you just hit it on the head, who cares what everybody else is doing? All you can do is control what you're doing. And then if you control what you're doing, do it whatever everybody else is doing. Whatever the standard is that was set to you by your manager, just do more, right?
Yeah.
And once you do more, that's the new standard. So, like, you did 114, you should never do below 114 ever again, right? Mm-hmm. So, because you can do it. So, yeah, that's kind of how that's kind of like what we kind of coach these guys on, is just like, you need to go in there and just no, at the end of the day, if it doesn't even work out or you're not that good of an SDR, I want you to leave with and then being like, man, that guy worked harder or that girl worked harder than anybody else that I've ever seen. So like
100%. Yeah. And I think to add on to that, Sean, I think if you're the kind of person that if you've had a job before and you have not felt the need to be micromanaged, I think a job in tech sales is perfect for you, because at the end of the day, you basically can decide when your day is complete. If you want to jump up early in the day, knock out 100 calls or whatever your quota is supposed to be, knock them out in a few hours and do your emails and do everything else that you need to do, and you're wrapped up. But if you're somebody that, constantly needs to be pushed and motivated and encouraged, you might want to think about something else, because this is definitely a go-getters arena.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the end of our 45 minutes. Dylan, I'll ask you this, and then I'll ask Darnell this about himself. Where do you see Darnell in like a year?
I mean, I would be disappointed in him, but if he's not an AE killing it somewhere at Limble. But I say that jokingly because I know where he's going to be. And candidly, if I could bet on it, I'd be betting it'd be sooner than that.
So Darnell, where do you see yourself in a year?
I see myself crushing it. I love it at Limble. I feel like my manager supports me, and the manager of all SDRs has, shouted me out in the first week. I see myself continuing to crush it, and continue to get better, continue to stay curious, and like I said, I love it at Limble.
Yeah, man. Help everybody around you, man.
Absolutely.
If you got the bandwidth and you're doing well, then help everybody else around you, and then the whole team crushes it, and then they hire more SDRs, and guess what that means? More managers, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I. So like this individual, like it's all about me. They can fire me at any time. None of these people care about me. I'm just a number on a spreadsheet. It's just such a bullshit mentality, man. And
yeah.
Just hope like we can get over this eventually and move on and get back helping each other.
I think one of the things that stands out, and I think that it a lot of times, from my experience, companies, they go as the leaders go, and one of the things that stands out, the CEO, like just mentioned, very, very beginning when we met him, is like, I want people that want to be here, and if you don't want to be here, you're probably not going to be here long. And so I think that just really sets the tone. And I've only seen team players at Limble, and it's phenomenal.
Nice, man. I'm glad we got you in there. Dylan, why should somebody join Shift Group?
Yeah, it's for the culture, we're going to drive home this culture that Darnell's talking about. And I say this a bunch, but there's just levels to things. And I know where Shift Group is at, and it's at the top. And we're going to continue that standard. So if you want to be the best of the best, you got to come here. And if you don't, then there's other places to go.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you two for joining me tonight. It's one of my favorite episodes. I'm glad. I think there's a couple people on here that want to be SDRs. So obviously, pay it forward, Darnell. We helped you out. You helped them out. If they, people hit you up in our network, and that's how we do. Yep, that's how we kind of do it here, is with our alumni program. So, everybody, I appreciate you watching today. If you're live, sorry if I didn't get to all your questions. We were just having a good conversation. I'll try to answer them after the show's over. But yeah, follow us. Follow Dylan, follow me, follow Darnell. We're out here hustling, trying to help people. So have a good night. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah.